Right now, we have Cavin Ballister's book, How to Feed a Brain, and I'm going to read to you part of chapter 10. Last week, or was it a week before, I gave you an outline of chapter 10, which is titled The Inns Superfoods. Let me get a bookmark here. Oh, there we are. Okay. And this chapter is 13 pages long, so I'm going to read to you 4 pages at a time. I hope it works out. um, we have attention spans smaller than a goldfish now. We know that. I remember when we were children, we made fun of goldfish. We said our attention span is several minutes and a goldfish's time is only 15 seconds or something like that. Now, our attention span is 8 seconds or something like that. I don't know. You can't quote me on these things, but now we can no longer make fun of goldfish because their attention span is longer than our average. Golly. Okay, well, chapter 10, superfoods. The inns, especially, this is Cavin Balaster speaking of his experience and research. Especially after an injury or throughout the disease process, we want to supply nutrients in ample quantities to meet the increased demands of the brain and body, and these superfoods help us to do that. Oh, page 87. Some people have a hard time introducing these superfoods. I know I did, but these foods contribute significantly to our brain and body health, and they are often missing from our diets. We will consider superfoods to be nutrient-rich foods that are especially beneficial for overall health as well as neurological recovery and optimization. Okay. There are 4 important superfoods that we will focus on here. I will also explain why these foods are important and how we can incorporate them into our diets often. Organ meats. Consume about 2 fist-sized pieces per week. To prevent an overdose of vitamin A, consume no more than 1 fist size from liver as part of your weekly animal protein allowance. Organ meats may be the most nutrient dense foods that we can consume, and considering the nutrients that they supply, they tend to be inexpensive. Not only do organ meats contain B vitamins, coenzyme Q10, an important factor in activating the conversion of food into energy, and all 3 of the important nutrients for synaptogenesis that we talked about in the last chapter, DHA, uridine, and choline. But they are also packed with important fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. Even though they are packed with important nutrients, not all organ meats are appropriate for everyone, especially those with high iron levels. For those of us with high iron levels, we may want to limit our iron intake by avoiding foods like clams, oysters, and some organ meats like liver. We recommend that those with high iron levels work with a qualified healthcare practitioner for healthy adults, consuming at least 12 ounces, 340 grams of organ meat a week. No more than 8 ounces, 227 grams for liver is encouraged. We can simplify organ meats regarding fist size as well. About 2 fists of organ meat per week, no more than 1 fist size from liver. If you are like I used to be, the idea of cooking and eating the liver, heart, kidneys, pancreas, etc. of an animal probably doesn't sound very appetizing. When prepared right, however, they make for a delicacy at a fancy restaurant. How unfortunately, cooking organ meats to perfection usually takes a lot of culinary skill, but we do not need to be 5-star chefs to reap the benefits of these foods. You can supplement organ meats. Go to feedabrain.com/supplements for information on organ meat supplements. Go to feedabrain.com/meat for information on high quality meat, fish, organ meats, and organ meat sausages that are very nutrient rich and palatable. Okay, I'll tell you my personal example. Yin Yang in Turkey ate half of a turkey, half of a goat brain once. I don't know what vitamins those had, but you know, I dared. And also, ooh, I dared to eat snake in China. I dared to eat a bug in the United States that was taken from a package from China. In my long history. And what else have I dared to eat? Eyeballs, fish eyeballs, and chicken brains, and duck brains, and fish cheeks, and fish brains, fish. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. If you are still having trouble eating organ meats, says Cavin Balaster, the, these are some tricks that I've found to supply these nutrients. Supplementation information. Whether eating conventionally or through a gastric tube, desiccated organ meat supplements are the easiest option to supply this superfood. Desiccated organ meats tend to come in capsules and are essentially ground organ meats which have had the moisture removed to preserve them. All you need to do is buy some organ meat pills and take them each day. You can find these superfood supplements at feedabrain.com/supplements. Gastric feed information. This is important for somebody in a coma. If nutrition is being provided via a gastric tube, taste is less of an issue. Liver is probably the easiest organ to puree for gastric tube feeds. Just make sure the liver is frozen for at least 14 days to kill any possible pathogens. Thaw, add to any other ingredients that are to go into a tube feed, bone broth, fruits, vegetables, good fat, meat, and puree using a high-powered blender like those found at feedabrain.com/tools. Then use the gastric feed creation instructions found at feedabrain.com/handouts. Rather than pureeing the liver raw, you could also cook organ meats using the included recipes or one of the recipes on feedabrain.com/organ meat before blending, or you can simply add the powder from desiccated organ meat supplements like those found at feedabrain.com/supplements. Now, Calvin Ballister, I have a question for you, is whether they feed the liver raw or feed it cooked. That would be a question. Freezer organ meat pills. Save your money. You can make your own organ meat pills in a cheaper, safe, and even more nutritious form with more enzymes still intact. Here's how you do it. Rinse the organ meat and pat it dry before laying it on a cutting board. 2. With a sharp knife, cut the organ meat into pill-sized chunks. 3. Place the pieces separated on a parchment-lined cookie sheet. 4. Freeze until solid and then transfer to smaller container if needed. 5. Allow organ meat to stay frozen for 14 days before eating to kill any possible pathogens. If the organ meat was previously frozen for at least 14 days, it should be safe to eat raw or to be refrozen immediately after thawing to cut into pills. If you're really good with a knife, you can cut frozen organ meat into pill-sized chunks without thawing, but cutting frozen meat with a knife can be very dangerous, so do not try this unless you are very confident in your knife skills. Try to swallow a couple of these frozen organ meat pills every day. Hidden organ meat trick. This is also a popular trick that can be used to incorporate these superfoods. Number 1, puree liver or other organ meat in a food processor or blender. Number 2, mix the puree well with ground meat like beef, pork, turkey, or bacon and or sausage. 3, cook as desired. That's all right. Am I back? I'm back. Sorry about that. Cook as desired. I got interrupted. So let's try. Next week, we will go to the end of page 89. For more recipes, try Googling hidden insert organ, insert recipe type. For example, try Googling hidden beef heart burgers to find recipes, or you can find more info and organ meat recipes at feedabrain.com/organ meat. So next time we will begin with gastric feed information on page 90, and I will see you then. I'll talk to you soon. It's great to see you, whoever's there. You've got the red button up there. You'll be watching the replay. And good morning, good day. Talk to you later. Old Kinderhook. Come on, you remember who that is.